like summits and those leadership activities into their own hands and bringing them to their communities. And then, so back to like as a SAC team, when we met in Charlotte for our first time in-person meeting, not here, we kind of went over like, what do we want to bring to the students' attention to really like focus on and dive more deeply and bring the most attention to. And again, those were our three main areas of concern: officiating, sportsmanship, and eligibility. So we sent out a survey with a series of questions like, how are you aware of this? Do you feel like you are comfortable in the knowledge that you have with this? Do you feel like this can improve? Where can you see improvements? So to start, we did officiating, like the first thing to go over is officiating. And obviously no one is ever going to be completely happy with the officials just because it's obviously controversial. But we just kind of asked a series of questions about like, what have you seen in your athletic environment? Where can officials improve? And honestly, most students weren't happy, but they also weren't unhappy, which I feel like is improvement. But then going through and reading some of the more qualitative data and like through response questions, there was pretty consistently like issues around maybe calls not being consistent and having one official be like, oh, this is bad, and one official being like, oh, this is good. So as a SAC team, we kind of decided that a way we can fix that is not by offering them more money, because we can't magically like, oh, here's like $1 million to come and rep. So we kind of just, it would be smart to maybe shift how we write things in the handbook to lessen the subjective language. So I actually cited something from the handbook on my slide that you would have been able to see, but unfortunately, I can't show it. But I'm gonna like, in like section 2.55C, guidelines for cheerleading, it says battling between opposing cheer squads is prohibited. And for me, that feels very subjective. Like, it's hard to like explain what battling is. And this was kind of an issue that like we noticed collectively as a team, and we feel like that's something that is tangible and in our power to change. So that's just one thing we thought that would kind of help the problem be a little just not as bad, and help the students kind of see like maybe less variability. And then, but honestly, I thought everyone was gonna be like, oh, our refs suck, we hate our refs, but there was a lot of good things said as well. And I feel like we should recognize that too, that I feel like officiating has come a long way, and something we've done as a SAC team to like recognize that officiating is really important, even if it's not perfect, is we had that officials appreciation week at the beginning of October, I believe. So just like kind of campaigning more about how officials aren't going to be perfect, but are still pretty frustrating sometimes, but important. And then the next area we kind of touched on and included in the survey was sportsmanship. And sportsmanship is something we talk about pretty consistently every year. It's been a theme for us for a long time, obviously for a good reason too. And again, the data from the survey showed that a lot of people were happy with the sports environments at their schools and felt like they were comfortable in the environment and their coaches were there to support them. So I feel like from the sportsmanship perspective, like as an organization, we're doing a good job about marketing and campaigning to like improve sportsmanship and like helping the quality of the game. Obviously there are special circumstances where players aren't always going to feel comfortable. We're high school students. We're not always nice to each other. And that's something we definitely like can't change. But when we look at it from a more black and white perspective, we can kind of revert back to the handbook on like the section about sportsmanship and about like guidelines for what qualifies an ejection. And again, I feel like we can go back to, and as a SAC team, we decided we could go back to kind of picking more objective language instead of kind of like beating around the bush, oh, this might be bad, this might be good. So kind of reverting back to that. And again, of course, the sports team isn't always black and white. Calls can change, calls are never this or that, but we can do our best to try and limit the subjectivity of the game and limit the subjectivity, especially when it comes to ejections. So that's where we kind of stood from a sportsmanship perspective, as well as also considering that sportsmanship isn't just on the court and in the field and whatever. It also comes from the students at the school. It comes from being able to go to the games. It comes from being able to access the sport itself. And I noticed, and a lot of members on my team noticed, and students at my school noticed that as games become higher stakes and your team is going farther in the championship, ticket prices go up. And I don't know anything about finances. I don't claim to know anything about finances. I don't like finances. I just spend. But it's hard to make the game excessive. So we came together and we decided that's also something we want to consider. And in our schools, we definitely take initiative to do so ourselves. Like we raise money to be able to send students out to sports game. We raise money to have more students get into the game and improve that sportsmanship quality. But again, sometimes just like limiting the accessibility of the game makes it harder to really get that like team spirit and that like feel for the environment. So that's also just something that we thought we could bring to you guys to have you consider and think about a little more. And then the last thing that we decided to touch on was around eligibility. And of course, like eligibility isn't completely determined by people here at the organization. It goes down to a district's level. But when I have a pie chart, I wish I could show you. But most students were aware of the eligibility protocols at the district level and at the state level. But when it came down to actual knowledge of like what that entailed and what it truly meant, students were kind of lacking in that area. And then I also, speaking from experience, I had a friend who was very like a crucial player to our basketball team, and they ended up getting sick and they missed several days of school. And it got to the point where they were like, if I go and I miss another day of school, I'm gonna limit my ability to play the game that I love. And again, that's not completely in you guys' hands. It's in the district's hands, but it's also in the state education hands. But that's also just like something to consider and to think about, because being an athlete is such a crucial part of a student athlete's identity, and jeopardizing that can definitely create like a big area of stress and can like put you at risk for not only like not being able to play the game you love, but losing an important community. So that's something we kind of like wanted to consider. And as a SAC team, we thought we could increase our marketing, and not marketing, but like campaigning around it and like bringing more attention to students and communicating better with ADs. But from an organization's standpoint, maybe like communicating with the ADs about communicating to the student athletes and about communicating to the coaches. I said communicating a lot, but like making sure that like it's a bigger point of focus, because honestly, I don't know what I would do if I couldn't play my sport. And I feel like a lot of my peers feel the same way. So kind of making that like more well-known and a bigger deal than it already is. And then that's really all I have. I feel like focusing on these 3 areas of growth, and my SAC team agrees, like focusing on these areas of growth, we can really like develop and grow as an organization, but also just give more like power and like to the voice of the student athlete. And these like concepts are obviously like very broad and like big things, but by looking at like the smaller things, like even just changing a word in the handbook, we can make a big difference. But also I'm just so blessed to have been given the opportunity to talk to you guys and to be a part of the SAC team. And it's great that you guys are here helping me become a better leader, but also helping my peers become better leaders and empowering our voices. And I so appreciate that, and so do my peers. Yeah, I think overall, most students are happy with the state of the North Carolina Athletic Association and happy with the state of their athletic communities. So it's really just like round of applause, but also just like we can still grow and develop, and we can do that especially by like joining forces as the SAC team and as like with more powerful people in the organization like you guys, and just like communicating our ideas and creating change. So that's all I got. Thank you guys for your time. Thank you to Jana for giving me this opportunity and being a great leader for us SAC people. And I hope you guys have a great day.
Thank you, Cal.
Thank you guys.
Now you have to go back to class, right?
Unfortunately, so.
I want to ask a question. So Jana, what was the method you used to get the SAC team to get the data for the survey?
We
How
used
did
Google form.
And you send it to the
We
AD?
send it to our SAC students for them to distribute at the school level, and then we also put it in the Tuesday memo for 2 weeks for ADs to distribute to their student athletes as well. And I think, how many responses did we end up getting?
270.
Yeah.
So pretty decent amount, I
Yeah.
feel, for the,
Yeah,
like time.
For a
of
2 week
that.
window.
Yeah,
Okay.
Mhm.
So, and the reason I was asking that is, it is imperative that our ADs assist us
Mhm.
when we're trying to, and that was, you use that word communication a lot.
yeah,
So ADs need to communicate when we're looking for data, when there are things that you all are asking for, so,
absolutely.
very good, so thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I wish I could stay longer. Thank you.
Okay, Joe Franks is not with us today, so we do not have an update from North Carolina Coaches Association.
No, but let me just tell you, we did have an email from Joe. He was dismissed from the hospital. He is doing better. I think he had sent out something to everybody. He had a severe case of diverticulitis and put him in the hospital. And so when he texted me Saturday, he indicated that he had already talked to his doctors about, if I leave the hospital, would I be able to come to this meeting? And they said absolutely not. But he wanted you all to know that he is home and he is resting comfortably, but wishes he could be here. And so I wanted to be sure to pass that along.
Okay. Next up is, with officiating, Mr. Albert Lassiter.
On Friday, September the 12th, around 9:50 p.m., I was riding home from the second football game that I observed that evening. And I received a phone call from one of my officials that was officiating another game. And that call reminds me now of why the work we do here matters and why it's so important here. The call went something like this. I said, hello. The official said, Albert, I'm scared. I said, what's going on? He said, a player hit the referee's line. I said, is he okay? I think so. It knocked him down, but that's not the problem. I said, well, what's going on? We're surrounded by fans, players, coaches, cursing, threatening us, and there's nowhere to go. I thought then, if they're at a stadium, the schools travel to that particular stadium, both schools, they park in the back where the officials park. And I said, can you get in the locker room? He said, no, the door's locked. And I thought about go ahead and who I had signed that game. I had a retired state trooper. I had a high school science teacher in that game, and I could hear the fear in this young man's voice. I said, hang up the phone and call 911. He said, seriously? I said, yes, hang up the phone, call 911. He hung up the phone. I called 911. I explained to the dispatcher what was going on. And she replied to me, sir, we have 6 units at that location now. Good morning. It's always good to have an opportunity, President Gainey and Commissioner Tucker Board. I appreciate the opportunity to share each and every meeting about the state of officiating in the state of North Carolina. For a lot of reasons. One, because I know this is the group, the avenue, the mechanism that can change and improve some of the things that are going on in the state of officiating in North Carolina. What I will share with you today will be things that have transpired since our spring meeting. And most of the things they're in 2 or 3 different buckets here, but the subcommittee that we have developed a couple of years ago, we continue to meet. Beth has sent the names of everyone on that particular committee to all the officials in the state of North Carolina so they can reach out to the person that they're familiar with or the person that is in their region. And this subcommittee continues to meet. We talked about some of the things that came out of that subcommittee yesterday, and we'll hear more about that a little later on from Andy. There's also a regional assigner meeting, committee. And as assigners, we talk about whatever things that could help us, assign better or be better leaders or teach better or develop better training programs. That committee is meeting. And I know for a fact that most sports, lacrosse, volleyball, they have, meetings as well. All that information is coming together and being funneled to the subcommittee, regional signing committee, the subcommittee meeting, committee members. And I want to highlight two of the primary issues that are just consistent across the board. And I'm going to list them in order of which I've heard those responses. One is safety and sportsmanship is without exception the number one issue. And I realize we can't control everything a fan says, everything a fan does, and fans now seem to, or society, we seem to feel that berating officials is just as much as part of the game as the hot dog and a pizza and scoring touchdowns. And we can't. However, there must be a plan, the school's plan anyway, they have these plans to protect officials. That game day administrator email that I received from an official is important. It is, just respond to that. And I realize how busy AD is. I talk to ADs all the time. Throughout the season, I get calls from an official. The AD hadn't responded to me. It only has one game. So he has a game every day. So she has 34 days. One sport. But it's important that protecting officials be a part of that particular plan and be taken seriously. And I've read several places that sportsmanship of fans is the number one reason officials are getting out. I don't have the data or pie chart the young lady just talked about to support that. But I do believe that. And the rating officials it's going to happen, but having a plan to protect them to me is even more important. Another thing, and this is a pet peeve of mine, personal thing, is the behavior of assistant coaches. For the most part, head coaches are a lot more professional. When the head coach speaks, an official should listen. He or she's not wrong every time. So we need to listen, but there are so many assistant coaches, and I realize they may or may not be a part of employee of the school. But we had an official this year that was threatened by an assistant coach. And threatened to the point, I'll see you after the game, or I'll see you, or all those kind of things. But let me stop and thank that school administration for handling that next day. They took care of that problem. That coach was not on that sideline anymore that I'm aware of. And I thank them for that. But assistant coaches, and I know that as school administrators, the behavior that I see sometimes from assistant coaches is not what you want your student athletes to see, to hear. The unprofessionalism. And then when we flag like a young man for cursing, first thing I hear is, I don't know where he got that from. I'm not sure where he got that from either. Let me return to my call on that September 12th. You know, I arrived at the game and I finally got to the back of the stadium. And I saw my referee sitting on the bumper of a paramedic truck being evaluated. I saw 4 officials looking at me, staring at me as I walked up with a look that I will never forget. Just a look I'll never forget, just a bewilderment and not knowing what just happened. Having someone with the key to let them in the locker room could have prevented or at least lessened the aftermath of what transpired that evening. So a game day administrator is important. The official that got hit, physically, he's okay. However, he has decided to retire from officiating. And in my opinion, that is the direct result of inaction. It's the cost we pay for not having safety as our number one priority. Second thing I hear consistently is compensation. And game fees has not kept up with the pace and the demand of the job, travel expenses, competitive pay, all the things that goes into becoming an official. You know, I often refer to officiating as an avocation. I may have been wrong on that. All the things you have to go through to become a certified official, it's as much as a profession as a lot of jobs that we have or have done. Consider what an official has to do before receiving one game fee. Attend a minimum of 6 clinics somewhere. Some are on Zoom, some are in person. Pass a national exam. Work at least 2, 3 scrimmages, and in some cases, jamborees all day. Purchase uniforms, hats, chest protector, shin guard. All of this occurs before receiving a single game fee. Each of us, most of us you're in the education profession, and a lot of people that report to you, and then some of you yourself, you have jobs that require continuing education credits. For the most part, you get paid while you take those continuing education credits. Paramedics, they have to be certified. They get paid while they do that. Officials go through similar process, receive no compensation. And then the season starts. We have more than 7,500, probably closer to 7,600 registered officials in the state of North Carolina. And this is a powerful group of dedicated individuals that help you and us have this great student-based athletic program that the state of North Carolina has. A lot of conversation we had, particularly last night, sitting around about athletes that have come through North Carolina, great coaches. We have great coaches here, great administrators, and the pay for our officials should reflect that greatness. There is, in our information this week, you can see that for a couple of sports, particularly a couple of major sports, all the neighboring states, we're the lowest of all those neighboring states. We're better. We've got to be better than that. I'm going to conclude with 3 things. I'll be up here all day. I'll conclude with 3 things that I absolutely know for certain. 1, officiating, at least in the area that I'm familiar with, has never been better in terms of mechanics, consistency of those, enforcement of penalties, and professionalism. Technology has made it easier for me. I don't have to drive all over the place to evaluate games. Did we get it right? I can watch 3 or 4 games simultaneously. Officiating, high school, has never been better than what it is right now. Is it perfect? No, got a long way to go, but it's never been better. There are mechanisms in place, and you can see that clearly this week with the subcommittee and the regional signing committee and the committee that Andy led in this board. There are mechanisms in place for officials to be heard. Now, we can't just stop and be heard. We've got to act on those, but there are definitely mechanisms in place. Last thing is tough issues. And you all know, you're leaders in your respective fields. Tough issues aren't resolved overnight. It takes commitment from you, this board, from officials, your member schools, all concerned, but it takes that commitment. And even today, if what is proposed is approved is a start. It's not the end all. With that increase to the sports, we're still the lowest paid in surrounding states. But I applaud you for, I have an opportunity to work with each and every one of you. I know you're committed to what you do, student-based athletics, and officiating is a part of that. I thank you for listening to me today. I'll shut up in just a few minutes, Dr. Gaines. But in that time, I will entertain any questions that you may have.
Any questions, board members? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have Athletic Director Association, Boyd Turner.
Doing mobile tech today, so. Again, Roy Turner, Executive Director, Athletic Director Association. Thanks for the opportunity to come and speak, share our passion, our vision, with you. We appreciate what you do every day and the impact you have and so forth. Commissioner Tucker and President Gainey, again, appreciate the opportunity to be here. This year, we have we do a challenge point every year. Our president comes up and this year is fill the gap. And the gap is gratitude. The grit developed by having gratitude for the people who laid the foundation for the path that we walk on every day. And we honor those people by what we do every day in preparation. The Callies of the world. You ever have any doubt why you do what you do, why you put up what you, and you have one of those young ladies or young men walk up and talk to you and represent your school. And you're just sitting there beaming going, man, that's right. She's in our school. She's in our community. So we know why we do what we do. Accountability, where we currently are, we accept that as leadership. Right? We don't point blame. We don't take it. We own it and we move forward. And we got to continue to be able to do that as we move into this next one. And then the P for GAP is purpose, our passion. Why do we exist? We inspire, we impact the next generation of leaders. And that's what we want to continue to make sure that we do. I'm gonna give you some dates and things. And again, if you see the PowerPoint, you would know some of these were up here, but our second slide was dealing with our board. And again, is our vision that the NCHSAA is committed to be a professional, member-driven organization, providing quality leadership, mentorship, resources, and services for all athletic administrators. We have broadened out into the middle school. We currently have about almost 50 members now that are middle school athletic directors. And we're going to continue to focus on that as we come into our state conference on the 13th through the 16th. Just like you, we try to measure each day our impact, right, based on the number of lives that we touch. And again, that's a moving target, but it's something we want to continue to do. Our goal continues to be the same, but our path and process continues to change. And I think that in leadership, we have to constantly be looking at that. Our third slide was talking about relationships. And we're very fortunate. Joe talks about it every time he has a chance. I talk about it because we're so unique across this nation. We were able to host the National Executive Directors Council last year in Asheville, this past summer in Asheville. We had 38 of the 44 states represented. And just listening to them talk about that we have a seat, an affiliate seat at this board, that we have the Department of Public Instruction, we have North Carolina coaches, and working together. We're all in other states. These are separate silos, and we're all completely independent of each other. So again, we're very fortunate to be able to do that and want to continue to do that. But we have those 5 organizations, that the State Association, the NIAAA, the National Federation, North Carolina Coaches, and North Carolina Athletic Trainers Association, who pick our athletic trainer of the year with us each year in collaboration with us. But we have one goal: promote positive relationships and enhance leadership skills and opportunities for all stakeholders. So we continue to focus on those moving forward. The next thing I was going to talk about is our toolbox. If you've not been to nchaa.net and clicked on the NCHSAA toolbox, you can see a number of things. Rhonda is constantly sending me things that she finds across the nation and sends there, become checklists and so forth. Putting stuff in there for you to have access to it. One of the biggest things and the biggest values for you, for your athletic directors, is legal issues, because that is a moving target. So look at those 14 legal duties, and then more importantly, the implications that they require in our daily leadership. Next thing we're going to show you, and it's new. So again, I'm encouraging all of you to go check this out. We created the NCHSAA Vault, and it's a resource page, but it's literally video now where you literally can go in and click on. You can watch last year's open and general sessions. You can see workshops you presented, especially an AI workshop, and Mike Hart did on that, you know, phenomenal job on that. But you know, the banquet is on there, the awards luncheon and so forth. So take advantage of that. And there's also a really nice series on there. Brian Carver, who was a member of this board for the last 4 years, has put together an entire leadership lab. And he's basically gone through like step for step, week for week, for about 12 weeks of different things that you can do. I mean, some really top level stuff, national stuff. It's sort of like John Maxwell, John Gordon type impactful. So again, please check that out. I think you'll find that to be very rewarding and valuable for your athletic directors. Again, partner with us. Again, our key is we're building value. You know, we're trying to again understand why we exist. We know that most of us would admit that we are the front porch in most schools and most communities. They may not know the principal, they may not know the superintendent, but they probably know who the football coach is and recognize him in the store. And I think we understand that. I think something else that's coming, we have to continue to be vigilant about and be intentional, is afternoon and event security. We do not want to be one of those schools or one of those programs or something where crazy showed up on campus and we weren't prepared to deal with it. So I think, again, I'm just challenging each of you. If that's not something you've looked at recently in your school, how are we going to do that? What are we going to do at 4:15 in the afternoon? School resource officers done. How are we going to handle that? Where are we going to move forward? Certification and national licensure, we continue to work on that. One of my statistics I'm gonna give you here at the end is, fortunately, we continue to run that trend. We now have over 3 consecutive years and 12 consecutive quarters of leading the nation in online learning. So you think about that now, that is a great statement to make. That we're sitting here with a state of about 450 schools, a little bit less than that, but let's get around that number off. We got New York, it's got 900. California has more than 1,000 schools. And we have more people taking online webinars and certification classes through National Federation and NCHSAA than any other state. That's again, a tribute to you and your leadership that understands that growth and development is required to stay and to be here. And that, again, I want to continue to try to make sure we beat that drum. National recognition, we have a quality program award now through the NCHSAA. We actually have 2 schools here in North Carolina that are actually qualified for that. One public school, West Brunswick. We got a couple others fit on applications now. So again, encourage you to do that. It's a great program to sort of feel like what bucket you're in and where you currently state is your program. Continue to look at national awards, local awards. We recognize a number of people at our state conference. We had 47 athletic directors, trainers, and then we did 12 officials of excellence last year in Wilmington. So we'll continue to do that here. So some dates moving forward, just to give you some things here in closing. The national conference, I'm looking forward to that 11 days from now, December 13th to the 16th in Tampa, Florida. So if you're not gone already, but most important one for you is encourage you to get your athletic directors to the state conference. Will be at the Renaissance Hotel in Asheville, March 13th through the 16th. And then we'll have our Summer Leadership Academy in Greensboro in conjunction with the Coaches Clinic. And Joe would tell you again, he provides us space at no cost. We have a breakfast that we partner with the NCHSAA and we have 275 ADs attend that breakfast and get an update on the current events and so forth after our annual meetings in May. That AD breakfast will be on July the 21st at 8 o'clock. So why should you get involved? Again, as I close here, just a couple more things I want to share with you. is, learn best practices. We just like today, we sat around here the last couple of days. We shared a lot of things that how people look at things. You've heard different perspectives on officiating, sportsmanship, some rule changes, but when you get in a group of people, and then it's the same as last night. We came back over to the motel and we all got together and we're just sitting there telling stories. And it was great because we were connecting our where we currently are at to where we may be going. And we were again honoring the people in the past, which again is a big part of the gap. I would say again, when you come, you get to meet the legends of the past. You get to meet the Matt Cumbos, the Roger Dixons, the icons of this profession, and hear those people speak to you. And then you get to find out again what's currently happening. I got a local and national issues. As I said, we've got some things going on. We got to deal with. The sportsmanship thing is sort of crazy. You can pick up a Facebook reel every morning and see. I mean, if you saw that Brunswick, Georgia, 39, 35, number keeps flipping around where they're gonna play. I think they're actually supposed to play Thursday now. They're supposed to play the game and, I see you shaking your head and like, what are we gonna do? We get that kind of attention, but anyway, I just, they just think again, and this is the thing. And that has nothing to do with my presentation, but we start writing this stuff down and people would believe it. They must sell a book, you're gonna be rich. People aren't gonna believe this stuff actually happened, but it happens. So, but we gotta be prepared for that as we go through. And then again, we're building national leaders and stuff. Just some numbers really quick. Our current membership is 480. We're about almost 110%. And that's again, as we roll over and get in these middle schools. So excited about seeing that number continue to grow over the last few years. In 2016, we had 0 membership. So when we went to a national model, we went to a dual membership, again, the benefits are there. Conference attendance, 256 last year. So 256 of 480. So that's pretty good, almost 60%. Transformational leadership, again, as that's the classes we're taking. And that's what we want to continue to push on, transforming people and creating that culture of leadership. So a couple things. And my last thing I want to challenge you as I move away. We talked a little bit about change. Change is again, it's crazy changing. It's the only thing that's constant in the world. And we got to figure out a way to embrace it and accelerate it because it's coming, right? Just like here, we got new emerging trends. And we have to be prepared for that. So what I want to think about is, I'm gonna give you 4 or 5 things here to think about. Make leadership our most important currency. If we're not focusing on that, if everything we're doing, if we're not taking the Callies of the world and putting them in front and saying, hey, this is why we do what we do. We need to do that. I'll give you this one. I love acrostics, and everybody knows me knows that. But equip. When we equip people for leadership, we are engaging qualities that are undeveloped in people. Think about that. Equipping for leadership, engaging qualities undeveloped in people. It's really easy. I mean, it's an easy one. It rolls off your tongue. You can remember that one and put that one in. But again, that would be my question. Who are we equipping? Are we equipping tomorrow's leaders with the tools that they need to be successful? Protect the purpose of education-based interscholastic athletics. Every day, that has to be all of our challenge. Protect the purpose of education-based interscholastic athletics. And when it does not become education-based, it's really irrelevant to us. It has to be in that order. Never apologize for excellence. Pursue it. Challenge your staff, challenge your athletes, challenge your coaches, challenge your community. Be that model. When we go somewhere else and sportsmanship's not what it needs to be, we'll outclass them. Just challenge them everything we can do. Here's a good one. Right now is the preparation for what's next. So right now, what we're doing, the exchange of ideas, is preparing us for what is next. And what I know is over the last few years, our goals have not changed, but the path or the process may have changed. But we're still pursuing excellence. but we get some obstacles and stuff that we have to navigate around. And then the last one is navigate through changing. As we said, we embrace it and we accelerate it. And again, we want to make sure again that everybody has an opportunity to take the trip, the journey that we have. So we're very appreciative. Again, thank you for taking some time today to listen to me. But more importantly, thank you for all you continue to do each day and the leadership you provide in your communities. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Mr. Turner. All right, next up, we have Brad Alford from North Carolina Department of Public Instruction.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I too would like to thank President Gainey, Commissioner Tucker, and board members for the opportunity to serve on this board. And I'll be remiss if I didn't thank Superintendent of Public Construction, Mo Green, and his trust in appointing me to this board and bringing my expertise. And I hope that you all find it beneficial over the coming years. So again, thank you to all of those parties. I do bring greetings from the State Superintendent of Public Instruction from the Department of Public Construction, and want to just share a couple things that perhaps if you were at regional meetings, you heard some of the first couple slides that I have, but then I'll dive into some things that will be new. But the state superintendent has led a furious charge in the development of a strategic plan. And just as Roy mentioned, excellence, that is what the strategic plan for North Carolina Public Schools is all about. It's so much so it's entitled Achieving Educational Excellence. And the mission, I'm not going to read it word for word, but the end of the mission, it says to support public school units in providing every student an excellent education that prepares them for success in the next phase of life. Nothing that we do in education is more important in preparing them for the next phase of life and throughout as athletics. And I think that we all believe in that. If not, we wouldn't be at this table. The vision of the strategic plan, again, is achieving educational excellence, and it has three components. It's high academic achievement, character development, and being the best in the nation for public schools. And I think a robust athletic program enhances all three of those phases of this strategic plan. And I look forward to being a small part in working with the whole DPI staff and our schools across the state to make sure that we're fulfilling that. The strategic plan has 8 different pillars, and they are prepare each student for the next phase in life, to revere public school educators, enhance parent, caregiver, and community support, to ensure healthy, safe, and secure learning environments, to optimize operational excellence, to lead transformative change, celebrate the excellence in public education, and to galvanize champions to fully invest in and support public education. So in the athletic world that we live in, we've identified some of those things that we're going to be able to assist with. And one of those is excellence for all. We're looking at things like, are we maximizing in our schools all the programs that we can offer? Because we know the benefits of those that we touch. So traditional sports, maybe we're not offering women's golf and we need to. Esports, unified sports, adaptive sports, and Special Olympics. We want to see every kid participate in athletics. The safe environments, again, another thing that Roy spoke about. But that's anything from new construction, renovations, or if it's continuing education for our athletic directors or our administrators, so that we're giving our spectators, our players, our coaches, our administrators, the best experience in a safe environment on those Friday nights, those Monday nights, those Tuesday nights. The well-being of everyone involved, all of those folks that I just mentioned, mental health, physical health, and school-based health services. One of the things that we are tackling right now is the athletic trainer piece. I've been working with Jana and the Sports Medicine Advisory Committee on how we increase those opportunities for our schools. We know there's a deficiency there, and we want to be 100%. Again, something that's going to take time, and hopefully with the hard work and the support of this organization that we can get there. And then lastly, celebrating interscholastic athletics. We want to tell our story, and I think it's important that we tell our story, because if not, then someone else will tell our story for us, and we know how that goes. So we're already doing some plug and plays, and we've sent out a form in which schools can submit things that are going well in your programs that we can highlight. Again, highlighting those excellence in public education-based athletics. As a transition to some of the new information, appeals to the state superintendent. Since our last NCHSAA board meeting, we've had 4 appeals that have had action. 2 of those were heard by the appeals committee, and then 2 of those were withdrawn. Since drafting this presentation, we do have an additional high school appeal, and we're in the process of planning for that. So just wanted to give you a quick update on the appeal situation, as we know now that that last step is to the state superintendent of public instruction. And then lastly, what I would like to share, and it's a little bit lengthy, but I won't be too long, are the amendments to the rules and policies on interscholastic athletics. Again, I'm gonna have to read some of this because I wasn't planning on that so that you can see the slides, but understand the technology piece. So just bear with me for a few moments. Quick background. As you recall, most likely, but back in 2023 with session law 2023-133, it was required for the state board to adopt new rules on interscholastic athletics. So all of the eligibility rules are now with the state board. State board adopted those permanent rules for 25-26 and beyond on January 9th. Rules Review Commission approved the permanent rules on February 27th, and those rules were effective as permanent rules on July 1, 2025. Like with any rule, just as the state association did when they were in charge of the rules, there's always amendments and updates. So we're now in that process. Just a quick timeline. Tomorrow, I will be presenting to the state board these rules that I'm going to share with you as a proposal. That will go for discussion, followed by a January meeting where they would hopefully propose those rules to the Rules Review Commission. Then there will be a public comment period from February 2nd through April 3rd. Once that comment period has passed, then it will come back to the state board for adoption. That would be in May. That would give us most of May, all of June to present those rules to your member schools, all of the other middle schools, and they would be in effect July 1 of 2026. So just a quick highlight of what those rules amendments will look like. Over in the definition section and interscholastic athletics piece. So what we're doing is we're pushing through the rules and the policies at the same time since they mirror each other. And we're adding definitions, administrative rule, gameplay rule, penalty rule, student health and safety rule, and student participation rule. These are already defined in the general statute. They will just now be in policy and rules. There was one amendment in the definition section which clarifies which rules an aggravated party may be effective relative to a final decision by a rule administrator. So in this situation, it's going to be any decision by the NCHSAA staff. Those are student participation rules, penalty rules, and gameplay rules. As we move over to the next section, administration of interscholastic athletics, the amendment clarifies which rule the rule administrator shall render a final decision within 10 business days. Again, this mirrors what we just spoke about, student participation rules or penalty rules. The gameplay rules are not in this definition because it's already defined that a gameplay rule, the ruling of a referee or an official, is that final determination. There's a conforming change over in student health and safety, and this is based off of Session Law 2025-49. It was part of House Bill 928. The amendment adds that a physical therapist is one of the medical professionals that is permitted to return a student that has been removed from play for exhibiting signs and symptoms consistent with a concussion. I will tell you that we've already heard from the field there is concern that it is not specified that this medical professional would have to have a concentration or training in concussion management. So there perhaps could be further discussion, but the way that the state law was written, we put it as a exactly the way it's written, but maybe there's some further discussion because those other 6 or 7 professionals, there are some pieces tied to concussion management training. Over the student participation rule, a couple big ones here. The amendment clarifies that excused absences under local policies of the PSU are not factored in when calculating the attendance for the previous semester. So you'll only be looking at unexcused absences. I think this will give some relief to our state association, as well as, again, these are rules for 6 through 12, so our district superintendents or their designee. Second Amendment clarifies that if a student enters a deferred prosecution agreement, conditional discharge agreement, or similar diversionary program, the student shall remain ineligible during the probationary period imposed by that agreement. So this is part of that criminal history piece with the felony. And so if they're in any of those programs, they remain ineligible until that period has lapsed. So moving into NIL, there's a couple pieces that we felt like we needed to clarify. Again, just because of the growing trend and we're learning along the way, that constant change as we spoke about. We have added that an agency contract as defined in the general statute is another NIL agreement that is subject to NIL rules and policies. So if a student contracts with a company to find NIL deals, the direct contract between the student and the company would now have to come to the state association as well. In addition to what's already in place to say if it were with Gatorade, that contract would have to come as a direct contact. We've also added that a member of a PSU governing body, so that's your board members, those are persons that shall not engage in any of the following activities: promise of NIL agreement to recruit, to participate, act as a student's agent or marketing representative, or otherwise facilitate an NIL agreement. This is in addition to what's already in the policy, such as coaches, administrators, your district staff, etc. So we've now added member of the PSU governing body. And then lastly, with NIL, the recruitment and agency restrictions, this amendment clarifies that a representative of an athletic booster club or NIL collective shall include any officer or person authorized to conduct business on behalf of that organization. And then the last piece is appeals. This ties into 2 slides I've already spoke about, but the amendment clarifies that the superintendent is going to appoint a board, and it's for those final decisions we referenced: student participation rules, penalty rules, and gameplay rules. And then last, I just want to share that, again, if we're going to shape the future of athletics, we all have to be in this together. There was a tagline not too long ago, better together since 1913, but if we all have to work together, I think we've done that. I think we'll continue to do that. So we look forward to that support and working with each other, the High School Athletic Association, the Coaches Association, the Athletic Directors Association, the officials. Let's make sure we're all on the same page. We push forward and continue to do what we do on our behalf of our student athletes. So thank you, and I'll stand for questions if there are any.
Questions, board members?
So Brad, I appreciate your presentation for being here. Welcome to the board. We've enjoyed working with you in different capacities and we'll look forward to this. As the state board looks at us as the contractor for high school athletics, what's the general feel about NCHSAA's performance overall?
Yes, we have discussed, and to date, there has not been any issues. We have received the required information that's both in law and the MOU. If it's financial related, we send it to our financial team. If it's, anything structural, then we look at it internal. If it's anything legal, our legal teams work together. So to date, and I've been in the position only 8 months, but to date, we've not had anything that has been cause for concern from the Department of Public Instruction.
Thank you.
So, any others?
Anything else, board members? Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Appreciate your partnership. Okay, board members, we are going to take a break. We will reconvene at 10 o'clock. All right, board members, we are going to resume. Welcome back, members of the public who are participating by live stream. It's now time for us to go through our committee presentations and take action as needed on a variety of topics. So, we'll start now with the Finance and Personnel Committee led by Martin Garrett.
Hey, President Gainey, certainly a pleasure to present this report on behalf of the Finance Personnel Committee. Would like to thank our Vice Chair, Dana Ayers, and also members, Matthew Cheeseman, Don Phipps, and Brian Tyson for their work in this committee. And also appreciate our staff members who are always helpful, Commissioner Tucker, Karen DeHart, and Morris Timmer for helping us in this work as well, and also for doing the day-to-day work here at the association that allows our student athletes to do the things that they do. We have a few items here, only one action item this after this morning. First of all, we received a report on our account balances and investment summary from our partners at the Fordham Group, and they managed a portion of our operating and permanent reserve funds. So we did hear that yesterday. If anybody in the public missed it yesterday, you can go back and listen to that presentation. Performance is doing very, very well. And we hope that performance continues. They would not guarantee anything, as you know, we wanted to put them on the hook for those double-digit returns, but they were not willing to do that, and I can certainly understand. The investment gains have helped offset losses. I think it's important for the public to hear the losses that we are incurring as an association, as the expenses have gone up, as we've expanded championship, and as those venues continue to get more and more expensive, as we want to offer that first-class service and first-class experience for our schools, our member schools, and our student athletes who make the playoffs and make it to those championship rounds. Also, decoupling the endowment funds, I think, is something that we need to continue to emphasize to show that when you see the endowment funds as separate from the association, and now I think it gives a clear understanding as we look at both our performance on the finances and also when we look at our audit report, decoupling those things makes it a little bit simpler to see what the association's operating finances are versus those from the foundation who are supporting our student athletes and member schools in other ways. And I'll entertain any questions on that if there are any. All right, move to item 2, which is an action that we handled yesterday as a board. That was our audit report. The audit report is clean. Those of us in the school business know that you want to have those good, boring, zero finding audits, and we had one here. So appreciate the finance staff and Commissioner Tucker for the diligence in managing those funds. It does show that we are operating at a loss. That is no surprise to anyone on this board. That has been the case for the last couple of years. And it is showing that we are probably, or we are looking at operating in a loss for this coming year as well. We did take action yesterday to approve that audit report. So that is item number 2. I don't know if anybody has any questions on that. Hearing none, I'll move to the operating budget. This is coming to you in the form of an action item. So we will need a vote on this, and that is to review and approve the 2025-2026 annual operating budget, to review the revenues received and expenditures made today. You have all those details in your packet. The budget, operating budget for this year is set just north of $6 million. $6 million, 13,935.79. Our budget, when we look at anticipated revenues and all the other sources that we know are coming in, is at $4.4 million, just north of $4.4 million. So that does leave a gap of about $1.5 million. Luckily, we are in good financial shape in our reserves to handle that, but those are some things that we cannot continue indefinitely because of, just like your family savings account, at some point that runs out. So those are some things that, again, those revenues that we're getting from the investments that we have are helping offset some of that, but also just making sure that we are being diligent in watching not just this year, but the coming few years, and our work as a board will be challenging as we do that. The budget year will be different as we look. Our sponsorships are down as a result of the legislative action and the MOU that limits that only to sponsoring championships. So a couple of things there to look at, specifically the Wilson contract has been reduced as a result of that action. And then the Greater Raleigh Sports Association and the City of Raleigh contributions are also going to be down this year because with the 8 championships and spreading those to different areas outside of Wake County, their economic development contributions are going to be reduced. But one of the things that has been taking place the last few years, and Karen DeHart has a group that she is leading with that, is working with TPG, which is a marketing group, and they are looking at some different ways to bring sponsorships in to those sports championship game partnerships, whether we're talking about some of the equipment sponsorships or some of the other pieces that go with those championship games. Because again, our goal is to make sure that we offer as much of a first-class experience as we can to our student athletes. So the expansion to 8 classifications, I think, is important that we continue to say out loud. That's not going to reduce the expenses to present championships. That's going to increase those expenses. So we are excited about the opportunity for the expansion of the different teams and individuals who will experience those lifelong memories in these championship games. But it costs money to ride the train, as my dad always said. So as we expand from 4 to 8 in all of these divisions, we will see an increase in the hit to that budget. Now, some of the things that are being done to try to offset that again are those sponsorship solicitations and some of the pieces that we can have in those partnerships. But also, I think as a board and as an association, there's going to have to be an understanding that as you have to have more venues, that those venues are going to look a little different. The availability of some of these venues may or may not be schedule-wise possible, or they may not be within the budget that we just are going to be forced to live with. So, I know that playing at NC State and playing at some of these larger venues is something that is desirable, but as we talk about where our budget is and the experience that we want to make sure we present, we have to find that balance. And again, for this year, there's not a lot to change, I don't think, because we're in the middle of that transition from 4 classifications to 8. So we need to just, I think, keep that on the forefront of our minds. And it'll take this year maybe longer to truly gauge the impact of what moving from 4 to 8 has on our budget. So again, the members spoke loudly when we moved to that. I think it's a good move as we think about engaging more student athletes and giving them different experiences, but there is an impact that we're all going to look at. So I think it's a challenge to us as a board to keep a close eye on our bottom line, not just this year, but over the next couple of years, and to see what these changes are bringing our way. The other piece that we don't always like to say out loud is nothing's getting cheaper, folks. I know that at your school level, and so those of you listening online, sending your teams to travel is more expensive. Buying uniforms is more expensive. Running your security at your games, more expensive. So all of that has to be passed on somewhere, and we have to make sure that we are just recognizing that with our member schools and what you're having in your local communities, but also that is impactful at the state association as well. So if there aren't any other questions on that, Mr. President, I would entertain a vote, and I would bring that in the form of a motion to review, or also, to approve the 2025-2026 annual operating budget of the NCHSAA.
Okay, we got a motion from Mark Garrett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Don Phipps. All in favor, raise your paddle. No, I got it.
19.
19. That's all. We don't need to go who's opposed. Everybody's for it. So the vote passes 19-0. We have a budget. Thank you.
Man, if nobody ever agrees with me totally, I appreciate that. Item number 4 is our final sports comparison report. And this shows the numbers from last year when we think about the sports championship. and what those things, the revenues that were brought in. Auditors pointed out losses in football and basketball. And I think again, that change in basketball, which really, really heightened the experience for everybody. I was able to go to one of the Final Fours, and to drive down and back and see that, and it was just awesome to see and to be in that gymnasium. But that also brings a cost that we have incurred with there as well. We've done some adjustments to some ticket prices this year, so we'll see what that has as far as our impact on those losses in football and basketball for the current season. Low ticket sales across the playoffs, and those can be impacted a lot of different ways. Weather, we were a week behind on football, which was a week closer to the holidays, and people were getting out for Christmas that same weekend due to the hurricane. And as somebody who's in the West, we appreciate everybody working with us to make sure that we could get a full season in, or as full a season as some of us were able to do as a result of everyone's patience and adjustments. But we also know that hurt some ticket sales in the playoffs and specifically those championship rounds. And the fall 2025 numbers, we just don't have those in at this point. So it would be my request, and we talked to the finance committee of having an update in the spring to hear how our fall and winter numbers have gone with the different changes that have been made. And by the time we are back together in spring, we'll know those football and basketball numbers that for those teams that are down this year. And for those listening, get out and go to those football playoffs. There's nothing like seeing it live and getting those experiences and supporting your teams. And you know, some of the things that we talked about as well is it depends on who makes those championship games. If there's somebody that makes it close, those communities a lot of times will come. If it's somebody that is a traditional school that has generations of graduates, 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 generations, then those communities tend to come out to those championship games more so than some of the newer schools that are around and some of the expanded schools. And quite honestly, some of the charter schools that just don't have that same tradition of where great grandpa went there and grandpa went there and grandma went there. You know, those traditions. And that's why we love to see folks get out and support your local community, get out and support your local school by that year and bring it to the games. Any questions on that? Foundation update. We bring this information courtesy of Bill Steed, who's the chair of the board of the NCHSAA Foundation. Board of trustees, 7 of the 9 board of trustees have now been seated. I know that's been quite a process to get those board of trustees members. And I think it's important to note to the public that that is not affiliated with anybody on this board at all. They use a couple of staff members here in an advisory capacity, but nobody with the NCHSAA has a vote. None of our board of trustees for the NCHSAA are members of that board as well. It is a complete and separate entity. So we appreciate those 7 folks who have stepped up to manage that on behalf of our state and our student athletes. Distributions in 24-25 totaled $1,178,000, $262.36. And when we looked at the percentage, almost $1 million of that went to schools. Not quite $1 million, but almost $1 million of that 1.1, almost 1.2 went to member schools out across the state of North Carolina, which means that's helping folks in all of our communities. They also surveyed member schools for ideas on how to use this funding in the future, how to make the biggest impact with our member schools and our student athletes in the form of scholarships or grants or some other things that folks are allowed to do with that money that board is allowed to do. So I know that as a board, they will be talking about those survey results and how they want to position the foundation to support school-based athletics in this state in the future. Any questions on that? Personnel update, just kind of want to publicly welcome publicly welcome Eddie Simmons, who is on August 11th, became the Director of Officiating Services. Alfie Wheeler in June came on as the Assistant Commissioner for Sports and Championships. And then Patrick Pay came on in September as Director of Sports and Championships. And then Alex Bass came on in September as Director of Development and Special Programs. We also appreciate Brandon Marie assuming the role of marketing and to expand his already kind of PIO duties that have been there. And then Jenna Fonseca, who also has stepped up to take on our student programs. And the highlight of every meeting for me since I've been on this board is to hear from our SAC representative, our student, and the young lady did not disappoint today. So he dropped some things that I think would be well for all of us to consider. And I'm excited to hear that they're looking at some things that are tangible and that have some policy repercussions. And maybe we'll be making some votes in the future as a result of what they're looking. And I'm sure that young lady knows more about the handbook than I do. Good Lord. So, Mr. President, that concludes the report from the Finance and Personnel Committee, unless there are any other questions.
Any questions from the board?
I just think as we move forward, to remember what students said earlier, as we make recommendations and review finances in the spring, when we get numbers as well. I hope that we can always push to keep our kids, some students in mind, as we have to make adjustments and grow. And we have the cost of expensive hosting championship. I just want to publicly say that we got to keep that in mind as well. If it's a reduction in venue sizes or where we're at, to make sure that they can always participate with.
Yeah, I think, Dr. Jones, I think that's a good point. You know, the lifelong memory and experience is less about the venue and more about the camaraderie and the season and all of the things that go into winning a state championship or even competing for a state championship. So, you know, the experience is what matters. It's not the place or the time.
All right, thank you, Sheriff. Next up, we have Andy McCormick with the Review and Officiating Committee presentation.
Thank you, President Gainey, Commissioner Tucker. Privileged to be up here this morning before everyone. I want to start by thanking my committee members. We had John Williams, my vice chair, Brett Lamb, Stephanie Phillips, Roy Turner, Albert Lassiter, and staff members Eddie Simmons and Beth Zinkin. I'd like to thank them for the work that they put in as we prepared this report today. Starting off, items 1 and 2 were for discussion only as our violation report and ejection report. Starting with that violation report, this is through April 24 through November the 14th. We had 53 violations with the top ones that really bothered us a lot was the physical violation for having proper physicals. We really think there needs to be an emphasis on that as the safety of our student athletes is paramount. So we need to be sure that our athletic directors and respective schools are really focusing on that and to limit those errors. In the ejection report, there's been a lot of talk about sportsmanship earlier today, but I hate to say we are continuing to increase those numbers of ejections. We're as of November 14th, we were at 570. I know that number has increased. That's well over half of where we were for the whole last year of 993. 86% of those ejections are fighting and profanity. So we really need to focus on that as we move forward with throughout our upcoming seasons. Number 3 is an action item. Regional supervisor positions of appointments for interims. The first one is to approve Josh Millsaps as the interim Western North Carolina Baseball Officials Association regional supervisor. And the next one was to approve Angela Morton as the interim Metrolina Softball Association regional supervisor. And again, I am bringing that forward as an action item.
Okay, board members, we have a motion by Andy McCormick. Is there a second? Second by Henry Rice. All in favor, raise your hand. Raise your ballot, excuse me.
19.
19. 19-0 unanimous, motion passes. Thank you, Andy.
Moving on, number 4 was another discussion item, and we've already heard from Albert this morning, our officiating subcommittee work, it does continue. As Albert explained earlier, the key topics were once again sportsmanship, compensation. And when it goes to the sportsmanship, he really pointed out yes, it's some athletes on the field, but the biggest headache and concern continues to be our fans in the stands. And, we do want them there, but we want them there to support and cheer and, act appropriately and set a good standard for our student athletes. Another concern outside of that was the behavior of a lot of our assistant coaches. They expressed that they tend not to have issues with the head coaches. Majority of the issues on the sideline come from assistant coaches. So as a membership, we need to do a great job of making sure we have the right people on the sidelines that are setting a proper example for our student athletes. And I want to thank Albert and the subcommittee. It was this, we talked about it before. Albert is a great representative for those associations, and we're happy to have him as a part of this board. Number 5, we'll have an action item, but I want to discuss, this was our biggest topic yesterday. We did receive information from the Lacrosse Officials Association, Volleyball Officials Association, and football regional supervisors and football. So it was on the focus of compensation and salary, say. And we noticed it continues to be a concern. We are aware that North Carolina is bringing up the rear when we look at our region and our neighboring states. We did give the last across the board raise for our officials was in December of 23. I was on this committee at that time. And that was a long time coming. But when we went through that work, we did agree to revisit this every 2 years, and it's 2 years. And we've had some requests, so we did want to come up with a starting point. So I will be proposing to approve a 5% pay increase for all officials in all sports for the 26-27 season. We did not want to do like we did back in December of 23. We did not want to enact a raise on membership in the middle of a school year. So this will once again begin in August of 26. In this process, we've also asked the officiating subcommittee to propose a plan for review of our officiating fees to be presented to the R&O committee to be addressed in our spring 26 board of directors meeting. So we can go ahead and hopefully establish a plan moving forward, almost a pay scale of sorts. So we're not continually receiving letters or requests from the respective organizations for raises that it's already in place. They know what's coming. So they hopefully don't have to worry about that. And most of all, hopefully we'll bring North Carolina to the standard and compete with our regional colleagues. Also, our regional supervisor advisory committee, we're asking them to propose a plan for review of assigning fees to be presented to the R&O committee to be addressed at the spring 26 board directors meeting. As discussed yesterday, our regional supervisors have not had a raise for 10 years. So that's a long time coming, but the request came from the football regional supervisors, but we want to, once again, we want to take care of everybody. We think everybody's equal, everybody's important, every sport's important as we look at things as an organization. So we're asking for them to bring a proposal for regional supervisors across the board in the spring for us to take a look at it in the committee. So this time I would like to put forth a motion to approve a 5% pay increase for all officials in all sports for the 26-27 season, and that would be rounded to the nearest dollar.
And before we go there, so this is for officials. Let's make sure this is clear. We're approving 5% for 26-27 for officials. And we're looking at spring for a continuity longevity plan for officials, and also in the spring, looking at what we might do with regional supervisors. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So we're not doing anything now. Is that, are we all on the same page here? Not doing anything now for regional supervisors, but we'll, by the time we get back to the spring meeting, we'll look at what we can do for them as well. So, but nothing is coming up until 26-27 school. Perfect. So I don't know, I want regional supervisors to hear that. We're just not at the point of knowing what to do yet for you. At this point, I hope I'm presenting it correctly over.
You are.
But, we know both, we're looking to address both groups. And I also want to say, we know that one group asked for it to be effective in the spring of 26. We saw that request and we understand that request, but we're trying to keep things together and trying to work also with our schools who are in the middle of the budgets they've set for the 25-26 school year. And we put a tough one on them 2 years ago. Big time 2 years ago when we asked them to shift budgets. And we're trying to avoid that as well because, we want to make sure that this has a positive, we approach it in a positive way and it has a positive future and longevity to it. So I'm capturing that right.
You're right.
So,
Right on the minute.
so we have a motion for 5% increase, starting 26-27 for all officials. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Dana Ayers. Any questions?
So I initially thought that I would rather do this in the spring, but I like this approach because budgeting season comes up for our school. So it would be my hope that as we do these things, that we talk about them at our winter meeting to be effective for the next school year. I think that will help all of us plan, and I know that will help our schools plan, but also sending the message to our important partners who are our officials and our folks who manage our games that we are seeing what they need and helping them move forward in that case too. You know, I think initially in my mind, I was looking that we would vote in May, but I like voting now, but making it clear that it would not be effective, and that'll give our schools, I would hope, a little time going into budget, because I know I'm starting budget talks with my county right now.
Another piece to that is our member schools are still adjusting. This is year one of the new conferences. So they're still looking at what the new conferences might bring on with additional cost or less cost than on their travel and everything else. So I think there's a lot of support in what's going on right now to wait to 26-27 for it to be effective.
So I have a question then. In light of that discussion, if there is some suggestion that regional supervisors would get an increase, then are we saying then that in order for that to occur, that we need to wait another year for that because of so in May, we could vote to increase, because that would
I think
impact-
right now letting our members know that we're gonna look at that in May.
Okay, all right,
But
just wanted to be
Just
clear,
for a cycle,
right?
for us to be on a cycle, I like the cycle or the idea of the cycle meaning we would do this in the winter, always to be impacted in the next school year.
And there's fewer regional supervisors that would impact the budget than there are officials. So I think that that's a doable, if we vote in May to increase that, that's much more doable than waiting to do officials and regional supervisors at the same time, because budget season is January, February. We're
Well,
preparing for that.
And to be transparent, I'm only speaking for Stephen Gainey now. I apologize to regional supervisor. I had no idea until yesterday that it had been 10 years since we had done anything. That's my lack of knowledge as well. So, we've got to figure out what we're gonna do. That's the first time I heard that, and probably people have told me, it didn't hit. But that's a long way. So I think we know we've got to do something. But we started down this road 2 years ago with officials. So we're back on that 2-year cycle. But what's come out of the conversation now is, can we to keep that from becoming some longevity, a plan we can put forth to maybe keep this officials conversation and then ultimately the regional supervisor conversation from coming up in the form of request instead of that we have a plan out there for them. But hope to have a plan out there for them. All right, so we've had a motion and a second with Dana. All right, anything else? Any other conversation?
So to clarify, this is the 5% pay increase for all officials across all sports effective 26-27.
All right, all in favor, raise your paddle.
Nineteen.
Okay, passes 19-0. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, okay, so here's a question that I would ask the board. We have these two committees that are already set. Would it be permissible for those committees to be reviewed to make sure that they are inclusive of all sports as they look at these suggestions that have come forward? And the reason I ask that is that in 2023, when we put that subcommittee, it was only 8. And we have more sports than 8. Now, we have some people on that committee who are multiple sport. But I'm not sure that that's the best way to handle it. I think in some situations, the two premier sports, basketball and football, can get, they overshadow, let's say, some of your other officials. So I think that it would be good if we could look at those committees and ensure that we feel comfortable with the representation that's on them. So I guess really I'm asking for permission to be able to expand the numbers as we need to ensure that there is the diversity and coverage all over the state.
And Commissioner Tucker, while you're on that, I forgot where Elbert did mention it in the session. The committee also was requesting some term limits for those members to make sure it continues to turn over as well as provide equal representation.
So, we have a lot of sports. And you just need to be sure that
play booking fees for it. It should pay booking fees for it. Soccer being a double.
that's for the,
Booking fees.
yeah, so.
So my question would be, how big a member committee would that be? And then if it's ad hoc, we control that member.
That's correct.
Okay, so we wouldn't have to necessarily worry about term limits because we control that from here. I think it's very good to hear that you need some different turnover every so often. But then if we included everybody, how big is that committee?
How many are on that regional supervisor committee right now?
Each sport, has a representative.
So it's each sport,
Each sport has a regional supervisor as a representative to that.
okay, and and it is a diverse group, males, females.
Yes.
That was slow.
Answer that, yes.
Okay, now the officiating group. There are 8 on there, but
There are 8, I don't know what sports each represents, it's a good point.
Not all sports are represented on that.
that's what, that.
So then Eddie, if we included all sports, how many would that be?
We would probably need to add 2, maybe.
Okay. So it wouldn't get unmanageable.
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, I think it's important to have everybody's voice at the table. You can make it happen.
Okay. So we will work with, Roy, we'll work with Eddie and, Elbert to expand those committees just to ensure the diversity. Okay, thank you.
All right, moving on to item number 6. This came from the football regional supervisors to approve a bylaw amendment to allow board of directors voting rights for an official. This was discussion only, but as we discussed yesterday in our work session, this needs to come through proper channels. Our membership principals that are the ones that should be requesting a bylaw change. We just did discuss that yesterday, and we just shared the proper avenue for that request to come through. So, that was the discussion we had there. Number 7, this will be an action item to require all regional supervisors to add Dragonfly as a payment option for assigning fees effective 26-27 school year. I'll make that as a motion.
Okay, the motion, is there a second? Second by Sam Jones. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, this is an option, it's not the only method of payment, correct? And I'm asking because we had a school system, with the financial department, had some concerns earlier this year that were brought to DPI. I just want to make sure it's a second option, not the only option.
Yeah, it's worded, Brad, as payment option.
I just wanted to clarify.
Because we do have some districts, finance departments do not allow those operating platforms.
Thank you.
All right, anything else?
So is there any negative to this at all?
No.
Okay.
21st century.
All right, all in favor, raise your hand. All right, motion passes. 19. Okay, Andy, I think that,
Yes, sir. That concludes my report. Thank you.
all right, next up, we have the policy committee, led by Sam Jones.
Good morning, my name is Sam Jones, got the pleasure of the chair of the policy committee. Like saying I'm pastor, vice chair, and dog, Jamie King, Brad Alston, DPI, and Will Hall was not here, representing the state board and staff, and Janet Fonseca. We do believe we have all of our, we made some changes to our languages from yesterday, based off of some discussions, and I believe they all are correct, and so what you are reading in front of you is accurate. Agenda item number 1, I will be asking for action on, in case of a rescheduled football game, SMAC recommends changing the handbook to read a minimum of 60 hours from the conclusion of game 1 to kickoff of game 2. There should be no contact practice between such rescheduled games. SMAC also recommends the same concept be applied to football scrimmages, and that needs to be changed in the handbook accordingly. So we would like to bring that, and I'd like to make a motion or to bring that to the table for a vote.
Second. Second, Eddie Dahl. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, raise your hand. All right, motion passes unanimously. Okay. Sam?
Agenda item number 2. The 3 separate days football practice required after 5 days missed due to injury or illness. We would like to recommend that we remove the line number 2 in the handbook section of 4.53D, which reads, students, athletes absent for other reasons, such as a funeral, quarantine, school suspension, etc., are not subject to the same rule. It's currently found on page 89 of the handbook, the football practice and conditioning section. So, to be clear, injuries and illnesses would still need that reactivation period. However, other absences would be at the discretion of the school, or coaches or LEAs if they choose, but just essentially removing that section.
So Sam, it's my recollection from our conversation yesterday that this section was added as a result of 2020 and COVID and the contact tracing and everything we all so dearly loved 5 years ago. And this goes back to what has been in existence for many, many years.
That's my understanding of the conversation we
So
had.
this just clarifies.
Yeah.
And we are not imposing on school systems how they have their flexibility to deal with it,
Correct.
however they choose, whether it's a school level or if your school system chooses to do something more.
Right. Coaches have their own rules, there's so many scenarios and possible conflicts with that, it needs to stay at the school level, we believe.
Right. This is not a standard change. This is a health and safety change.
And Brad, this is no conflict to the policy of state board. I don't believe.
So this will be effective when we're approved.
For the.
Oh, 26, yeah. Yeah, but,
27, yeah.
but it does not have to go through all the other process.
That's right.
All right,
I'd like to make that motion.
all right, Sandy made a motion. Does anybody have a second? Second. All right, Mark Garrett, any more discussion? All right, raise your paddle if you're in favor.
Nineteen.
All right, motion passes 19-0.
Action item number 3, the use of shoulder pads during summer football skill development. We did strike through the skill development workouts, and so they will read, use of shoulder pads during summer football 7v7 event shall be discontinued. So during a 7-on-7 scrimmage, you're not wearing helmets and shoulder pads. That will be discontinued, and that will be effective this summer.
They wear helmets.
They wear helmets, but no shoulder pads.
Yeah.
Sorry. Wear helmets, no shoulder pads. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, be worried there, Sam.
I'd have been right out here pretty much.
Get back in here. So.
Yeah.
And Brian would have blocked the driveway.
I'd like to bring that as a motion.
All right, is there a second?
So,
Second was John. Okay, all right, any discussion?
So just to be clear, if a football coach is just having workouts in the summer, which we would consider still skill development really in the summer, he could do shoulder pads and helmets. It's only in the 7-on-7 competitions where shoulder pads would be disallowed.
Yes.
question, clarification. If a member school is attending a summer camp at a university and they run a 7-on-7 tournament with shoulder pads and helmets, with it being an outside, with it being a camp, a paid camp, are they allowed to do this there?
They would have to follow our high school athletic association rules for that camp.
If your school team is going there, they would have, yes, like you're saying.
So I hate to throw a curveball, and I didn't think that yesterday, but that's some border counties. What about if they play in a 7-on-7 in a neighboring state?
I know that in previous years, when we've had rules in place for our people in North Carolina, if they were going out of state, they had to follow our rules.
Yeah, I just want clarity.
Right.
I'm not arguing. I'm just, I just think we need to be clear.
We could have a 7-on-7, one team wearing shoulder pads and one team not. It's two different states, us and another state.
And I guess really, if you think about it, if the Panthers offer their 7-on-7 competitions, and they require.
Can you speak to how frequent that is, or is that very common?
Well, in particular schools, but I know in the past, some universities, even within our state, when they're hosting their 7-on-7, they wear shoulder pads and helmets because some of their athletic trainers believe it's safer. So I know it's out there.
Gotcha.
Do we open ourselves up to any kind of issues if we have our kids playing without shoulder pads against somebody with shoulder pads and somebody with hurt?
Well, I would think your motion, the director will just not allow them
Right.
in.
Chris, to your point, I mean, the safety. Somebody's wearing them, someone's not.
The concern came with how physical some of these 7-on-7 would be. You know, where it could be. I can see where some could argue it's safer with them, but I don't know if they were being regulated or officiated.
They were playing like they were in fourth
Correct.
year.
There was stuff that was shared. So,
Well, I hate to keep dwelling on this, so you can get in the weeds, but you know, coaches find gray areas.
yes.
And we say shoulder pads, but we have a lot of teams that wear the soft. And are that will be included as well, or?
Any input?
My suggestion would be at this point, having this question now brought up and us as SMAC not thinking about it, we table it for now. I bring it back to the SMAC committee when we meet in March prior to the spring meeting and we revisit it in the
I
spring.
agree with that. And if we probably need some information, you know, how many of our colleges recommend it, don't recommend it, so make sure we're not hurting and limiting opportunities for kids.
Which we'll work on gathering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, with that said, we are tabling item number 3, we will be back in May. Or April, whatever that day is.
April. Number 4, the flag football update, we discussed this quite depth yesterday, we did have some coaches and some people that share some information with us overnight. It was good, and this is not gonna make it out of committee, but I think it's important to know. Mr. Tyson, you know, he certainly advocated for his people, and Ms. Turner stepped up yesterday and said that subcommittee would step up and start organizing. I think the movement and ensuring that it doesn't get kicked down the road, right? And our president yesterday did say if that committee is ready for some action, you know, in February, then we can certainly call that meeting to call the board back together to do a full vote if it's ready to be sanctioned. Some of the data that we have shows that we're certainly trending, and it is here. Some of it is not clear. Have we met the 2 years? Have we not met the 2 years? So where are we collecting that data from? Such as calendars, officiating fees, there's a lot of work that's gotta go into work. And so that committee, and I believe the staff member leads Austin Fleming, correct me if I'm wrong. So if you have input or something you need to share, you can reach out to him. But Ms. Turner stepped up, like I said, yesterday and kind of took charge there. That committee is going to really try to get together and organize and maybe look for some partnerships with some affiliates that already, you know, playing flag football, may already host tournaments. So we can organize it. What we found yesterday, that we were kind of all over the place, the state, whether it was in seasons, how long quarters are, field size. There's a lot of variances currently right now. So we just got to put a little structure on it before we're ready to vote. It's how the committee felt. But then I do want to reiterate that the president did say if that committee comes to us, actually, Paul Penny King, whose daughter, the quarterback, flag football, he serves on both of committees, so he can reach out, just share with anybody if we need to meet again, or have more to say. So any other discussion that I did not clarify there?
I would also ask, as I scanned the information that was shared, thank you to those who sent it in, and thank you to the members on this board who are helping educate those of us that have the desert. There's a couple of big deserts. When I looked at the map, the Western North Carolina has a big desert on this, so we are behind the times as far as what this looks like. And I noticed that the smaller the school population, the less likely they were to be playing. So I think the committee would really be helpful if they could provide just some, this is what flag football is, this is what it looks like, this is, you know, just a FAQ or a primer on, this is how you can start a program, this is what it looks like. And I think you would see those numbers increase pretty rapidly in some of these regions that are, again, those deserts.
And I think we ought to send a shout out to Riley Fields and the Panthers. They have been very supportive of our efforts, and so we don't want it to be lost that, you know, they stand ready to help school systems who have a desire to start these programs. And you know, they're ready for us to have it sanctioned, but they also have been very respectful of the deliberate manner in which we've gone about this to try to make sure that we can all be on the same page. And I think that's been the biggest issue, is that it has been so disjointed in that, you know, you have some playing, you know, a real condensed schedule, some playing more games. We don't know how many, you know, the length of their quarters, how many quarters are they playing? So this way we can gather that information, hopefully, and be able to come together with something that now shows some consistency and move forward.
And to your point, Mr. Garrett, the Panthers have come to the North Carolina Athletic Directors Association Conference and presented to all of the ADs across the state of North Carolina to talk about flag football. So even the folks in the West have been presented, on several occasions, but we'll be glad to do whatever we need to do in order to make people feel comfortable about it.
Q, I'd like to share too that Riley Fields of the Panthers sent me a spreadsheet. I sent it to Rhonda, and Rhonda, you can send it to the whole board if you'd like to later today or whatever, just some updated numbers. So to see if they have met the 25%, and I think they have, but just for purpose of discussion today, 23-24, they funded out of the grant 69 teams, and then it grew in 24-25 to 119 teams they funded. And then this year, 25-26, 110 have already played this fall that they funded, with 27 already signed up to go this spring, for a total of what, just 135 has grown to 137. So I think their numbers are there. We just gotta have further discussion with the ad hoc on what, where to put them.
Well, I think it also points out the fact that people obviously respond to surveys based on who they want to respond to, because the data ought to match. We sent out a survey, and so our data doesn't match this group, doesn't match this data. I don't know if this data matches the Panthers data. So
Yeah.
what our schools need to understand is that we need to know.
And our schools don't respond to all surveys, like we all know.
Well,
But that's why I thought this data from the Panthers was very good, because this attaches their grant money to it. And that will be an accurate number of the number of schools that they have supplied funding for.
Mr. Keaton does several both, I believe, is correct, or he's on ours, I think he's also on that flag football as well. And that was some of the questions, our concerns. I'm not saying it was wrong, but we also didn't want to say, hey, create a whole nother survey. But the survey that was sent allowed multiple responses, just to collect as much information as we could have. So it wasn't necessarily negative, but I just think it's now time to really narrow it down to exactly what we got, so we can make a true proposal. And I also think, I want to be careful of how it sounds of an organized thing, just speaks also how fast it's growing. And so people are trying to put it where they can, and what fits in locally. And so we recognize that, and I want to be careful, that's not necessarily a negative comment. It's just, we got to get a little organized so we can make sure we facilitate, championship in the right manner that it deserves.
And Mr. Tucker, do you think it would be, I know in years past when we had some surveys sent out and we were looking at bylaws and different things, the board of directors were provided a list of the schools yet to respond, and we worked the phones. I think that helped a lot those years, but also I think I don't think it would be out of the way to send a list of schools failing to respond to the superintendents. So they're aware of their principals not responding.
We can help.
We can certainly do that.
I think it's something that subcommittee should probably do is create a new survey, ask me questions, but get whatever specific information we need, and to make sure, hopefully we got a superintendent on there that the other principals know exactly what we need as they work with staff too, whatever questions got to be answered before we implement. I believe we challenged that committee in January, early February. They started working last night, some of them did it, so. All right, any other discussion? Number 5, did not make it out of committee. This was Four Rivers Conference, Northwood High. It was to implement a cooperative team agreement policy that allows 2 or more schools to combine athletic programs in specific sports when 1 or more of the schools cannot independently field a full competitive team due to limited participation, declining enrollment, and other challenges. We did have some discussion about this. There are some concerns, the broadness of it, what we're actually able to do. The ADM impact is how we're assigned. Look at our specialty schools, if you take the entire enrollment, so how do you do that now? If you start going sports, do you keep it within the same LEA? You allow, multiple LEAs to combine. There's a lot of different questions, and also what state board policy also allows with what the LEA's responsibility is of assigning athletes to certain schools. And so when we start crossing LEAs, that could bring a lot of challenges as well. And so I said it yesterday, but I'll say it again. That was one of those key parts to having somebody from DPI, and Brad offered on our thing. So he was able to look at that and help us kind of navigate that as we work together through that. That did not make it out of committee. Any questions, comments on that? All right. Number 6, the spring individual tennis schedule. The Cafe Athletic Conference brought this up. It was moved the men's individual tennis championship Saturday, May 9th and Sunday, May 10th. It is currently scheduled for Friday, May 8th and Saturday, May 9th. The committee staff and the committee discussed the amount of conflicts that do come up. We do ask that, this has to do with a specific exam. And so if the kid is impacted by this, to reach out to staff and we would work, they would work if they are able to do so. To accommodate when they are able, but face the same challenges in graduation and other events, the state championships in passing, so that did not make it out of committee. Any questions? Thank you, Sam.
Board members, just as a point of record keeping here, just to kind of in the conversations. We approved on that last group policy committee we approved 1 and 2. We tabled number 3. Number 4, we're bringing back possibly in February if we need to have a special meeting. With the work that can be done, and then 5 and 6 did not make it out of committee. So that's what I have. If I had something different, let me know. I was. All right, last committee report and actions, Larry Williford with the sports committee.
Okay, I was with the sports committee, third on the sports committee with me was, Henry Rice, Paige Badgett, Erica Turner, past president Chris Blanton, staff, Rhonda Dropolis and Alfie Wheeler. Jeff Franks was, on the men's and he's not able to be with us. But he's getting better. First thing is came out of the agenda item was adjust the men's individual tennis championships. This was discussion only. It also was in the policy committee, moved the men's individual tennis championships from Saturday, May 9th, Sunday, May 10th from a Friday, Saturday to a Saturday, Sunday. As we discussed yesterday, no one in our committee was in favor of, competing on Sunday unless it was an extremely extenuating circumstance, hurricanes, snowstorms, etc. And that's how it's been in the past. Any discussion on that? Number 2, rewarding conference champions on automatic playoff berth. This was brought out of Coastal Conference and this Carteret High School. This did not make it out of committee. They wanted to reward conference champions and seeding for winning conference only over a team in the same conference that has a higher RPI. We discussed yesterday with the board about first year, it was the implementation of the 8 classifications, and there's only 6 conferences across the board in the state that are 1 classification. So there are some growing pains, and we knew that one of the things that all coaches and athletic directors asked for was for playoff seeding to come out in a more timely manner, so teams could get ready. And with that asked, we went with the RPI being the basis on ranking teams for the playoffs. And it did eliminate the conference champion as an automatic seed. But it was something that was discussed in multiple committees last year. Number 3, adjust the North Carolina High School Athletic Association handbook to clarify the qualifying field of golfers. This will be an action item. We were asking to add back the language of maximum to the number of qualifiers for regionals and state champions. This had always been in the handbook up until the 25-26 handbook. So this would be a clarification to add maximum back in, which would help in the process of determining the qualifiers.
Okay, we have a motion. Motion from Larry, that's your motion.
That's the action item that we're asking for a vote on.
Is there a second? Chris Blanton? Okay, any other discussion? All right, all in favor, raise your paddle.
Yeah,
19.
All righty. Okay, Barry?
With that motion passing three, takes out number 4, which is basically restating how to adjust the field of golfers based on the team participants, with the language of maximum being added back in. That will take this out, so it did not make it out of committee. Number 5 will be an action item, regional qualifications standards for men's and women's golf. It was brought about by the North Carolina Coaches Association. They wanted to require a minimum of 7 rounds for male golfers in order to qualify for regionals. The females, up till that point, there was no qualifications. There was no minimum number of rounds for males. But there was 5 rounds of IWR rankings for female. So we are asking the board as a motion to require the minimum of 5 rounds to be played by male golfers in order to qualify for regionals, which would bring it in line with the female golf standards.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second? Second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your paddle.
No. 19.
Motion passes 19-0. Second. Henry.
Okay, number 6 will also be an action item. We're bringing before the board, it's the tie-breaking procedures for conference tournament seating. This was brought by the North Carolina Basketball Coaches Association. Is to update the conference tournament seating tie-breaking procedure to use the North Carolina High School Athletic Association RPI ranking in place of step 4, which requires a draw. This tie-breaking procedure would bring it in line and replicate how teams are seated in the playoffs in each classification. We'll do that as a motion.
So we don't want the Texas coin flip?
Or the double nickel. Had it flipped many a time in my day. I practiced, it's always 50-50.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second? Second, Matthew. Any discussion? All right, Matthew, did you have anything you want to talk? You want to say?
There'll be some conference bylaws, some conference adjustments. I think that's just stated that, with the current rules in place, what if you probably.
Okay.
So this is effective 26-27 though, so that'll give conference time to take care of all this. Good.
All right, any other comments? All right, hearing none. Raise your paddle if you're in favor.
Nineteen.
Larry,
All right.
flip a coin this year, send me the video. I want to see it.
Motion passes 19-0.
Well, we have done it via FaceTime before at 11 o'clock at night in my next door neighbor's kitchen. He videoed. I've had a lot of different things to be a conference president, trying to get everyone together after a Friday night basketball game.
Need Waffle House parking lot, baby.
That only happens in Texas. Number 7, shot clock. This was brought before the North Carolina Basketball Coaches Association. They were asking to allow shot clock for voluntary use during scrimmages, regular season, invitation tournaments, or special event games, MLK, play for K, etc. This did not make it out of committee, but there was lengthy discussion in the committee and also yesterday by the board. We have asked that the North Carolina High School Athletic Association staff, along with the North Carolina Regional Basketball Supervisors, with the North Carolina Basketball Coaches Association, for some more information, the number of schools in the state of North Carolina, number of gyms who have a shot clock that is NFHS compliant. Second part of that, we've asked for the number of basketball officials in each region who are shot clock trained. Garrett pointed out that, in the spring, he would like to get this on the thing to, vote for it. We've talked about a lot about the shot clock. Spent a lot of time spent on the shot clock by the North Carolina Basketball Coaches Association Association as well as the board. I would ask between now and May that board members reach out to your stakeholders, your athletic directors, coaches, and I know we've done surveys, North Carolina Basketball Coaches Association have done surveys, but looking someone in the eye and talking with them sometimes is a lot better than a survey. And gauging people's true intent on this item because this item will come with a financial cost. There are people that are very passionate about this item on both sides of the fence. So I think it's something that definitely needs to be brought before the board sooner rather than later for a vote.
And I don't begrudge anybody's opinion on this. We've just wrestled this thing and I'd like to at some point vote and let's move forward. I don't want to unduly burden staff with all the time having to go back and get information and go back and get information. So anybody listening to this, if you have an opportunity to provide feedback, get it done and get it before us so that we can have a good discussion and take action or not.
I agree. Okay, moving to number 8, this will be an action item. We bring before the board, the 2026-27 sports season calendar. It's attachment number 9 on information you received via the packet is to approve the proposed North Carolina High School Athletic Association 26-27 sports season calendar. One second.
All right, there's a second. Who was that, Jamie? All right, any discussion? One motion from Larry, second from Jamie. All in favor, raise your paddle.
$19.
All right, motion passes 19-0.
Number 9, sports season calendar, it kind of piggybacks on number 8. The Rocky River had asked to adjust the high school sports season calendar, reduce the number of weeks in basketball season and increase the number of weeks in the baseball season. They gave several variables. We discussed it in depth within the committee. It did not make it out of committee, but I would like to add that the 26-27 sports calendar does move the start date from baseball to February. Start date of baseball February 15th. The first playing day is March 1st, so there is more practice time available. And also adds a week at the end of the sports season for that season.
Okay, did not make it out of committee.
Number 10 will be an action item bring for the board, playoff opt-out form for individual qualifiers. The language would read to require schools to submit an opt-out form for individual qualifiers who elect not to participate in postseason. Student athlete, parent, principal / designee signature is required for submission to the North Carolina High School Athletic Association. These would help the staff get ready for these individual tournaments and championships. And because, a couple people not showing up, it's throw a monkey wrench in really fast. And it goes right in line with what we do with teams who opt out. Yes.
All right, we have a motion from Larry. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Erica. Any discussion?
So I have a question.
On two.
Well, I'll let you all go
You
ahead.
go, you go.
Well, no, I see that the effective date is 26-27. Is this something that we could do for the remainder? We've got some individual sports seasons coming up in the winter, indoor track, then tennis and golf in the spring. So could we go ahead and implement that right away?
I guess I'll ask a question back to you and your staff. Is that something that can be turned around that quickly?
Yeah, it's just a matter of getting the form and then just making sure that they know that if they have somebody who is a qualifier, but says, I'm not going, then they would send that out there.
And I think we had discussion yesterday about the principal or designee signature was not an agreement, but it was just receipt of the form. To make sure that we put that language in there, the athlete and parent are the two
That's right.
that are going to agree on, but the principal or designee is just citing as a recipient of the.
And that was what I was
Yeah,
thinking.
okay.
We need that in there, and we're not saying, I'm not thinking we're not implying that the principal and the
Approves or
parent and the
not.
child don't wanna do it. It's over, we just gotta make sure the athletic association gets it, which we don't need the principal in the middle of that.
So President Gandy, you would let me to strike that motion and restate.
Yeah, let's start over and, if it's kind of, anybody opposed really to change it to 25, 26? Thinking about what you've got with stuff coming, and in the spring, you have plenty of opportunities for this probably to play in, so instead of going through that all year and get it going, so the new motion would say effective 25, 26, start with the winter sports season,
Yes, sir.
okay? When you say that?
Yes, but I think you ought to withdraw the motion and then, yeah.
Start over.
Yeah.
And the other piece, do we need to put in there the part, Dana, that's the part that
Yes.
we need to say something to the effect of the approvals coming from the child and the parent of signing this thing. It's just acknowledging receipt and that it's going to the,
Well, all it says is signatures. It doesn't say that you're approving, not approving. It just says that you have to have 3 signatures on the form. So I think the form can look however you want it to look unless you just want to try to get super specific, which can sometimes be dangerous. But my question is to the athletic directors in the room, does it matter when this starts?
No.
Because you're the ones who will be wrangling it.
I don't think, Alan, just, I'm putting myself in your seat. You're not gonna know if someone doesn't wanna do it until they come to you, right?
Well,
You're not gonna get out and advertise, are you?
no, I'm gonna tell all my individual coaches that obviously they're the ones on a day-to-day basis in front of the child. And if for whatever reason the child chooses not to participate in the regional or state championship, whatever the reason may be, that we now need to fill out a form so that the high school athletic association can, one, possibly get another child into the regionals to give them the opportunity.
Right.
So I mean, it's just the form, I don't think that piece is gonna be very difficult, because we're probably not talking about a ton of kids.
I thought what we talked about yesterday was having a section at the bottom, kind of just acknowledging receipt by the principal, so, and that would be submission to that later.
Rhonda, didn't you say that's on the form?
Is it on there?
Says or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we can always put at the bottom that or designee that this is a receipt of acknowledgement before it comes into our office.
Do we need to
What
have a
happens if they-
timetable, like 3 days before, in case we're trying to get other students to participate? Does it need to be submitted 3 days before the event or 5 days?
Well, I don't know that you wanna do that because sometimes you don't know until you've met the qualifying standard. So isn't that what happened with golf, Austin?
Yes. Yeah. When it happened, it was a little later than afterwards, but if we could get it before or the regional deadlines, then we can pull those opt-outs out and then they can have whoever's next in line to go in. But if you don't get it to us before the regional or the deadlines or whatever those regional deadlines are, then we can't.
Yes.
There's nothing we can do about it. It would be a forfeit or it would be an empty
Right.
spot. And
So it would so your deadline would be whatever the qualifying deadline is. So to submit
deadlines.
qualifiers, you'd have to have it in by the qualification deadline.
To add another participant?
Yes.
Yes.
the reporting deadline.
Yes,
we have.
report,
That's
that's
on,
what I'm saying.
that's on the calendars as well.
Yeah.
So just like for any team, or we have to have it for that reporting deadline for us to see and go through that process.
So this is logical, reasonable, and rational, which is always good. It says requirement. What happens if they don't submit it?
The name opt-out form is the requirement too.
Well, I can tell you what we have done when we've had somebody on the morning of and we're here seating and they call us and say, we're not going. Before we ever get too deep into what we're doing, we try to get something in writing to ensure that superintendent principal knows. We had a situation a couple of seasons ago where principal and AD didn't know the coach it said, we're not going, and we left that team out. I believe in that the case, and I think the coach got in trouble. And the community, so, but that doesn't answer your question. I mean, if we have somebody who on the day of, I mean, I guess at the end of the day,
They don't show.
we can't find anybody. So, I mean, I don't know what you do other than you just would leave that space blank, I guess. That would be the only bad thing, is somebody else would not get the opportunity.
We all hope schools do the right thing, and athletic directors and coaches is, that don't always happen, especially dealing with, student athletes and communication lines breaking down. Especially if they know, a lot of student athletes are not gonna tell you anything that thinks gonna upset you as a coach or hurt your feelings, so they wait until you get the last minute.
To be honest, we were stunned when we got an opt-out for golf. I don't think we've ever had an opt-out from golf. And so that's what put this on our radar.
Larry, I think restate the motion, would make it for 25, 26.
Okay.
Thank you for the winter report.
Let's try the previous motion, require schools to submit an opt-out form for individual qualifiers who elect not to participate in postseason. Students, athletes, parent, principal / designee signatures required for submission to the North Carolina High School Athletic Association. This would be effective for the winter sports season of this year.
Second.
Who said second? Who's second? Erica. Oh, look. Any other discussion? Erica, second. All right,
So for clarification, effective winter sports and moving forward.
but we don't have one thing left, right? We've only got one thing in the fall, right?
Yeah, it's for winter and spring sports.
Yeah. So winter sports season.
Mhm, yes.
So
Never
would
moving
you,
forward.
so would you entertain a friendly amendment to say effective immediately?
We can do that.
Larry, you want
Would you
to?
entertain a friendly amendment to say effective immediately?
We're gonna entertain a friendly amendment.
That's technical.
Hey, I need all the help I can get.
No, you're doing great. We're messing it up for you.
All right, we good? We got the friendly amendment, we're good? All right, you got your pat, you got a second, we got a first, we got a third, raise your pat if you're in favor. Make sure you get immediately in there. Hey, why don't we call that the Mark Garrett rule?
That's Robert E. Lord.
I
I didn't invent that crap.
You're
19, Dr.
19.
Where's Robert's rule of order, buddy?
All right, Larry, I think you're on number 11 now, maybe.
Yes, this was a discussion item only. It was to, discuss the volleyball regular shooting contest, being set in line with other sports of 24 contest. We not for vote or anything, we decided to leave it like it was. Volleyball, people were happy with what it was. Or it is minutes.
And the way it is now is 22.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That is it for the sport committee. I think we had the most agenda items of any other committee, so I'd like to thank everyone for their hard work.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you, Lord.
All right. For board members, this concludes our work. I'm gonna turn it over to Miss Tucker in just a second and let her close us out, but appreciate all your hard work the last 2 days. Hope you have a great holiday. Appreciate all your thoughts and actions toward what is best for kids in this great state. We have some great student athletes. Obviously, we saw one today, Kayla, in her presentation, but, I just, as we continue to face challenges, we heard some from the affiliates, we heard some challenges. I continue to remind people that are with me on a daily basis to focus on the glass being half full and not half empty. And keep looking up and, I get this, maybe it's more appropriate here because we're talking about athletics than it might be in a principal's meeting, which I'll be talking tomorrow. But I think it has relevance in both places. I think we have to keep playing to win and not keep from losing. Keep looking up and keep moving forward. We've got something that people want. And if you don't believe it, watch how many kids tell you thank you when they get their medals at state championship games. It's amazing. There's a lot of great kids out there and they still value what's going on with the regular season and getting a chance to go to state championships. They still value it and we have to keep looking up and keep pushing forward because many of us enjoyed that and it's not fair for us to slow down and prevent them from enjoying it in future generations. So I appreciate the conversation we had yesterday as a group. Obviously, this organization has a tremendous history and our role is to when we're no longer on this board, make sure it's there ready for the next group of board members to carry it on and keep moving it forward because kids are dependent on us. New board members, glad you're with us. I hope this board meeting, these 2 days, I remember the first 2 days I was here, I didn't know what I'd come to. But over time it starts, working and the process, you see it, and it's a great process, Ms. Tucker. It really is. And staff, thank you. One of the highlights of my fall was seeing all the staff as it's been, put back together. We've had vacancies. I don't know how to say it any other way, but just watching, teams being let out and the formality of that before state championships and how things were run by staff and watching staff going in different directions at different times of the events, that's just special. And if you don't think kids see adults doing a lot of great things for them at these events, you're kidding yourself. They're seeing it and that makes them feel good. There's athletes out there right now that are gonna be on this board somewhere in the next 20 years. And they'll be doing what we're doing. So thank you for all your time, all your board members, and I hope you have a great holiday.
Well, thank you, Dr. Gainey, and I'd like to begin by offering, congratulations and best wishes to Don. And happy you were able to join us today. He's the new superintendent, officially sworn in yesterday, Winston-Salem, Forsyth County. So we wish you the best. I'd like to also congratulate Erica Turner. Many of you don't know, but Erica successfully defended her dissertation several weeks ago. And she will have her hooding ceremony, I believe, this coming Friday. Next Thursday at UNC Greensboro. So and as many of you don't know, but she's an ordained minister. So she is now Reverend Dr. Erica Turner. We just always are happy when our board members are doing wonderful things and they want to recognize you. Just as an update, I failed to mention this. I did have an opportunity to make a presentation to the School Boards Association several weeks ago. Jamie King came and sat through the presentation. Usually the room is full, and it was again, and they always have a lot of questions. They always are interested in the realignment, and they're free with their suggestions as to how we ought to be doing things, and they're very free with their concerns about charter schools and private schools, and but it was a good session, and so I just wanted to update you on that. I also want to remind everyone that our executive committee, I went to our executive committee several weeks ago when the ADM numbers were delayed, and asked the executive committee to allow us to delay the due date for membership dues. And they approved that delay. So membership dues, the deadline for those will be the end of January. We are still trying to get that final list, so we can post it for everybody to see. I think we're pretty close. So hopefully before this week is over, we can get that posted and then we can generate the invoices for the membership. So that has been delayed and that ought to help our schools. Maybe they'll get a few basketball games in and, have the money to be able to move forward. I want to thank our staff, as Dr. Gaines was talking about, the staff and seeing them doing their thing. It's a great staff. I wouldn't work in an organization where we didn't have good staff. And we've been very fortunate over the years to keep staff. But then as opportunities have presented themselves to our staff members, they've been able to move and ascend to, higher heights in many instances. And I think Brad is a great example of that. He was with us a long time, but I think we also see that what he's doing at the state level, he learned from us. So we have to feel good about the preparation and the fact that he is now there, but still able to continue to work with us. So to our staff, thank you all very much for your work. Thank you to those who have assumed new roles and responsibilities. They do a great job. I try not to micromanage them. If they know how cheap I am, they know that, they know that I'm gonna ask about the money you're spending or, those kinds of things, but it's still a great staff. And I appreciate each and every one of them. And I appreciate you all as board members. It's always easy to be able to say, we have a board of directors who are our bosses. And that's important. And I think knowing that you are very supportive, knowing that I talk to Dr. Gainey probably more than I talk to everybody on the board, but he'll send me a text and it'll just be, call me, or he'll say, call me when you can. But he and I chat recently.
My principals, they told me after about 10 years, they said, that call me always bothered him, so I've been putting emojis on there.
Oh.
But I sent the kiss them. I didn't know what I was doing.
Well, he hadn't sent me any kisses.
So I had to get my emoji work back.
I feel sad that you have.
But I do send emojis now, I make them feel better. I didn't know it bothered me. They went 10 years and never told me they didn't like call me.
Right, call me, nothing is wrong.
Right, not urgent.
Yeah.
Not urgent.
Right, but I do appreciate you and the work you do on behalf of our student athletes. And I think our staff, we know that what we do on a daily basis is for the membership. And that when we get those phone calls from parents who are upset about officials, they're upset about coaches, they think we can hire and fire, which is interesting to us, that they want us to do something about a coach or get somebody, changed. But it's always good to know that we have your support. And so thank you and the new members, as was stated, I hope this has been a good experience for you, and that you go away with at least a little bit more understanding of what happens here at 222 Finley Golf Course Road. And that really and truly, we're not the ones who make these decisions, that you all are really the ones who make those final decisions. And so we're very appreciative of that. And we look forward to, as we continue this work with these 8 classifications. We hope to see as many of you with your teams there, or to see you just show up and say, we want to be there to support our student athletes. So we wish you a great holiday season. And as always, anytime we can help you as staff members, do not hesitate to let us know. Thank you. I'll let you close us out and then we'll make our final announcements about lunch.
I did. I'm not sending you any more texts.
Joe Franks, they say Joe is logged in. So Joe, we miss you. And we certainly wish you well. Be obedient to your wife as you try to recover and do what the doctors tell you to do. And we'll be talking to you soon.
I'm good.
I'm good.
All right. Oh, I got it.
You need a motion?
Any motion, we need a motion to
Motion to
adjourn the
adjourn.
meeting.
Second.
All right, motion second. All in favor, raise your paddle. I guess it's 19. The meeting is adjourned.